Friends, family and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we're going to date stamp this. It's year 4 blog 32, or in legacy numbers it's blog 188, and it's dated 28th of September 2025. And yeah, it's been a horrible week, but I'm trying to remain chipper. Definitely we're in the middle of autumn now, I would say. Damn cold, but still sunny, still quite bright on a lot of days. But the weather can sort of like affect your mood sometimes. Less so for me, because I'm not going out, I'm not traveling to work, I'm not doing outside things so much. I still sometimes go out into the back garden and just pull up a few weeds and that sort of thing. But generally, I'm going out for a walk when I can. I did 5 walks this week out of 7 that I could possibly do. Saturday and Sunday being the times I'm not at the moment. But, I've noticed the cold. The tips of my fingers are quite cold. I might have to start wearing gloves soon. It takes a while for my hands to warm up when I'm walking, but my body remains quite warm. And other than that, we'll talk about me, or should I say more about my mum, later on. But we'll get the news out the way. And remember, the news is just a date stamp. It's not a place really for opinions, unless you really feel strongly about wanting to say something in your comments. But from my point of view, very few opinions really from me. So we start off with the war, which is only here because that's how I started my sort of blog, with the news as a date stamp. So I stated at that very beginning that I'd stop commenting on it once it finishes, and I thought that would be quite quick, but it's ended up not being so. So the article I read said Poland scrambles jets after Moscow hits Kiev with 500 drones and 40 missiles in a massive attack. Overnight. At least 4 people were killed in the attack, including a 12-year-old girl and 10 others wounded. The assault triggered fighters being scrambled from Poland as a preventative measure. Russian's foreign minister stated it had no intention to attack Europe and denied any mention of Russia invading foreign airspace, which I think is really from an article from the previous week where jets were noted to be going over Romania and Poland rather than this particular attack. And all I can say about it really is that this peace treaty of swapping prisoners of war and Trump's insistence that he wants the war to end and is offering to mediate and has had many mediations. I've heard on the radio this week that an aide close to Trump is getting frustrated with Putin. Well, bloody hell, so he should. And that sometimes we are our greatest enemies in regards to negotiation, because we don't do enough in regards to helping with the talks by retaliation type things. So yeah, I don't really have an opinion other than I want the war to end. And I just want to keep repeating that. Haven't really been listening too much about UK news, but I did, on the occasion, watch the news, continuing certain stories like chaos continued as airports and Land Rover and suppliers battled to get systems up after the recent cyber attacks. Now, this I think continues because the airport cyber attack is quite new, and when it comes to Land Rover, they've got most of their systems back up, but the suppliers went are still troubled, and certain companies went under. And I think the government has tried to step in and said they'll try and help to bring calm to those suppliers by aid. I don't know quite what that aid is. I didn't hear enough of the radio reports to tell me what that was. It continued with other articles, and it was that hot topic of migrants. Unrest and trouble continues over migrants into the country and those that are staying at hotels and B&Bs across the country. Yes, lots of protests, lots of flags being put outside, British flags being put outside of hotels, lots of unrest in local communities, all to do with migrants. And yeah, like I said, it's a hot topic. So that was a big story of the week. And another one, a minor one, I don't really care too much about this one, but the Eurovision is in crisis after Israel was boycotted, and it's to do with who won the Eurovision contest, where it's going to be staged, and with the recent hostilities that are going on in Israel. And it's all to do with how other European countries, whether they're boycotting or not, based on this unrest. So all war, or cyber attacks and stuff, it's all bad news. And as I said, I don't really have too many opinions on it, other than I think when it comes to cyber attacks, I've never been a condoner of it. And the rest of it, what can I say that hasn't been said already, really, in regards to those? And just one rest in peace, really, for a actress, that is very sad, and probably one that you might not have heard of, and that's Claudia Cardinale. I think she's an Italian actress, but it's one that I picked up upon. She was 87, by the way, and died on the 23rd of this month, because of one of my favourite films, Once Upon a Time in the West. As I said, a beautiful young lady in that film that you see virtually from the start, and her story unfold, where she reaches her final place of inherited location, and the ongoing railway that's going to pass through it. But it's not about that story. It's a sub-story, but a fantastic actress. I didn't realise until Wednesday that she was in the Pink Panther, so of course she was. When I looked back, I went, oh God, of course she was in that. But she was in lots of films that I haven't seen. She was, I think, first seen in a film called 8.5 by Fellini. And I don't remember too much about the film The Leopard, Visconti's, what they call Visconti's masterpiece. It's a period drama. But she's had over 100 roles since she started in America, and she's considered to be one of the last golden age actresses that was still alive until a sad passing on the 23rd. So yeah, there was a lot of reflection on Wednesday in regards to that on my friend's channel, Ian Hill The Ramblings, where I do a live with him. And quite rightly so, because even if an actress is not so in your face, you can do so much by being subtle. And I think that's what she did best. So, that's the news out the way, and I suppose we ought to get to me. And I'm only really going to report a little bit really on Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday was a particularly bad day because, you know, my sister will come in and we both have to get my mother out of bed, and she's got bad legs at the moment. As you know, we've been told to put elevator legs, put this Voltarol cream on. But to see your mother keep crying in the morning with the pain is not great. And, you know, I there's many a time where I've had to leave my sister and come back in here, and I've had, I've had to try and contain my emotions and continue with work. It's not been easy, but my sister decided was enough is enough, and I agreed with her. And she phoned the GP surgery, and he arranged for an ambulance for that day to go to the hospital, have some blood tests, and have an ultrasound. Now, I only knew that my sister had arranged to go to the hospital, not the subtle details in regards to what was being booked. Or if she did tell me, I didn't hear that. And I swear blind. I just heard that, arranged for the hospital. But that's neither here nor there. 11 o'clock, we got the 111 service calling us back, telling us an ambulance had been booked and it'd be with us within 4 hours. So you can do the maths. 11 o'clock in the morning, 4 hours. And of course, my sister goes at 2:30. So eventually, my sister has to go at 2:30, and I said, "Don't worry, I'll be with Mum and get all that sorted." But we did get a call to say they were on their way, but nothing happened. And it was 6 o'clock, and I decided enough was enough. And I phoned just before 6 the GP surgery saying, where was this ambulance? And they said they couldn't help us. The GP had gone home. There's nothing that they could do anyway. And the best thing that I could do was phone 999 or 111. And I went, well, the condition settles down during the day. It's not getting worse, because that's what they mentioned. They said if it's getting worse, it's worse. It's terrible in the mornings. But I did what they said. And I phoned 111, and I was in a queue for absolutely ages and nothing was happening. So I thought I'll phone 999. So I phoned 999, and I had to answer all sorts of questions. You know, is the skin clammy? Has she got a wheeze in her chest? All of this sort of stuff, even though all I wanted to do was get to the point, where's the ambulance? Right, we've done all of this. And we got to the end, and then a phone call came through on the landline. And I couldn't answer it the first time, so I continued to talk to this operative on the 999 service. And we were just getting to the point of getting to the where's the ambulance, there's the reference number, when it phoned again. And I told her, I do apologise, I know you're 999, but I'm going to have to answer this call. Answered it, because the 999 service said it's not going to be about the ambulance, because she can see all the people that are making calls, or reference to calls to pre-booked ambulances. But I picked it up, and it was, of course, the service telling me where the ambulance was and where it was. So I went back to the 999 service and said, "Thank you very much, but that was the ambulance service. It was an 01869 number." I said, "It definitely could only be that. It's sort of local to where I am, and that's the only thing it could be." And she said, "Okay." And that was the end of that call, and I continued to talk to the landline number. And they told me that the ambulance was on its way. Minutes, I was told. And quite rightly, it was about 10, 15 minutes, and it was here. What you have to understand about this is that ambulance crews are all over the place. But I live 600 yards from the front of the hospital. I could have walked there with my mum's bad leg. But the point is that we need to get her there safely and with little pain. So the ambulance crew came in and they did all their tests. They did a blood pressure check, asked me a lot of questions, said that they wouldn't leave until my mum was ready. And, my mum hadn't had a cup of tea in about an hour, and I hadn't cooked her dinner that evening because I'd been on the phone so long. And they said, "Cook her something now." And I said, "It'll take 25 minutes to cook a jacket spud," which is what she usually has in the evening. So, but I did tell them my concerns. Now that you're here at 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm concerned about how long we're going to be at the hospital for. She's got 2 tests to do, and she's going to be waiting around. And during the day, that's perfectly fine. But she goes to bed at 9. Can you guarantee that she's not going to be up late? Because my mum's, in her 80s, And he said he couldn't guarantee, but he said that the emergency ward was definitely less busy than it was yesterday. There was a handful of people there. And so he thought that things would be okay. We got my mum onto the back of the ambulance, and then I asked another question, which was quite pertinent. How are we going to get back? Because we haven't got a wheelchair that you've just wheeled my mother into, and she hasn't got a Zimmer frame with her. So how are we going to get back? And he did say that there's no sort of like ambulance service in the evenings, but if you mention that you're a single carer and that you've got to carry your mother into the house and it'll be dark at night and all of this sort of stuff, they might hear you and arrange something. It has been heard that that's been done before. So I went, okay. So that was another little niggly concern. Time it would take to do the tests and time to get back. Anyway, we waited around in the waiting room, and somebody recognised my mum and spoke, started a conversation. I happened to whisper in her ear about 10 minutes in that what my mum's problem is with dementia, and it shocked her a little bit, but she altered her stance with the conversations in regards to, do you recognise me, and all of that sort of stuff. We had a nice sort of like conversation. My mum was wheeled in after about 40 minutes for the blood tests, which is a good sign. And then the waiting room started to fill up. I saw it starting to fill up. I wanted to go in with my mum, but they wouldn't let me. Apparently it's a regulation in regards to how many people can go in, and so forth. But my mum's got dementia, and I mentioned that as a concern, and they said there's nothing that they could do. And so I had to wait in the waiting room, and I was speaking candidly to this lady that was recognised my mum, talked about some of the concerns that we've had, but how well we're trying to keep my mum and that she's got the best care. And after about an hour, some doctor or nurse came up to me and said, do you want to come in and see your mum? And I said, absolutely. And they said, yeah, your mum's been asking for you. And I, too right, she's been by herself, sitting in that area, with no one around other than people prodding and putting needles in and all that sort of stuff. It was horrible. So I came in to see my mum. And I said, Mum, are you okay? She said, yeah, I'm glad you're here. She said, that pleased me. And they came along and said, can you wheel your mum back into the waiting area? And I said, whoa. I said, she's got to have an x-ray. I said, yeah, but we got to wait for the doctor to look at her there. And, you're in a queue for that. So you need to be in the waiting room. And I said, well, I'm not happy. I mean, it's a drafty area and all of that sort of stuff. But okay, what can I do? And they put her in a wheelchair and I wheeled her out. And the lady, the Karina, she was only around then for another 20 minutes because her husband had finished with his treatment. And so then I had to sort of like talk and keep my mum busy and happy, and while she's really, really tired. And I said many times, Mum, do you want a cup of tea from that machine over there? I said, machine tea, and all this sort of stuff. But eventually she buckled and I got her a cup of tea. And yeah, it was bloody awful, and it cost £3.40. And when I told my mum, that tea that you're going to cost £3.40, she went, £3.40? You're mental. So I told you it'd be horrible. And I said, yeah, but it's better than nothing, isn't it? And she said, yeah, I guess. And I put my phone in front of her, and she watched silently episodes of Heartbeat from my phone because, you can't really have your sound up when your mum's semi-deaf. So it was 2 hours, 2.5 hours actually, we're in the waiting room before we were wheeled back in. And we got to a cubicle and a doctor came in and he tried to speak to my mum. And even though I kept saying to her, she's got dementia and she's deaf, he eventually cottoned on to this and spoke to me. And I told him about the situation with her leg. It's also a right knee, but I believe that the right knee is compensation for walking when she has to, because she takes pressure off of the left. What we've been doing, all of that sort of stuff. He felt around the leg, he felt the lump there, said, yeah, I'll put her in for an x-ray. Now, this is where things go downhill. She's not supposed to have an x-ray, she's supposed to have an ultrasound. And this is where I didn't sort of like know. So, of course, I waited for the x-ray person to come along and wheel her away. And that happened. Another about half hour, 40 minutes, she was wheeled back into the cubicle. I had to signal for a nurse to ask my mum to help them with my mum go to the toilet and change a pad, because I didn't bring any pads with me. You know, like I said, I don't know how long I'm going to be in this place. And then she was wheeled back, and although this timeline is probably getting a bit skew-if to you, it was the doctor that came back and told me about the results of the x-ray and the blood results, which is no fracture, and couldn't see much on the x-ray, and blood tests were unremarkable, which is a good sign, means there's nothing there to measure against. So he went away, and 20 minutes later a knee and leg specialist came along, felt around and everything like that, started talking about the fatty tissues that are around your top of your shin and your top of your thighs and the knee joint in particular, saying there was nothing to drain that he could see, that the pea-sized lump is nothing that's causing her the pain, and that it must be the breakdown of the fatty tissue, which is prominent in most people of her age, and that we needed to elevate her legs more, increase her cocodamol, and put a cold compress on it. All of that time to tell us stuff that we pretty much already know, or already doing, and the only thing that we weren't doing was we were using heat and that we should be using a cold compress. So I told him that I now need an ambulance to get back. I wasn't going to argue with him. It was 2:00 in the morning. And he said there's no ambulance service. And I said, yeah, but the ambulance crew did tell me, if I did tell you, that my mum's, quite old, and it's late at night, and we haven't brought anything to do with our Zimmer frame and all of this sort of stuff. And all he offered her was staying overnight, which my mum did adamant. She, all the way through the conversations that I had with her, did not want to stay. Said, I want to go home. I told him this, and he then basically raised his voice or became sterner and said, on your head be it. She falls over when you go, and it's on your own risk. And that my recommendations are not being listened by you, and so you need to sign a form for release. I went, I'll sign a form for any release. And I turned around and said, I didn't like his tone. And I said, there's risk in everything. But I tell you this, you need to look at your system. You need to look at your system, that you knew an ambulance crew was bringing my mother in late. That this ambulance crew didn't give us any Zimmer frames. You're not providing anything. You're not even providing a wheelchair to get my mum out of here. And we have now got to phone up a taxi, get her home, and I have got to rush out of that taxi, get her Zimmer frame, get her out of that taxi, walk her into the house, all on my lonesome. And that's because she needs to go home. And you need to think about ambulances to take people that are of this condition home. I understand it's difficult, and I understand ambulance crews are everywhere. But if I go out here and you book a taxi for me, and I see one ambulance outside waiting, I said I'll be putting in a complaint. And we went outside. He gave us a wheelchair. And by the way, I had to wait another 20 minutes for the discharge letter to tell me what treatment they'd given her. And I went outside, 2 ambulances sitting about. And I do understand that those crews might be with the people that they've just brought in, but there they were, two crews. But we got her into the taxi. It was unremarkable, is a word that I might be using now, getting her into the house. I managed to do it. I managed to get my mum cleaned. I managed to get my mum into bed. And by the time that I got everything ready for the morning, it was 3:15 when I got into my room in here. I had my laptop still open because I hadn't even dismantled it for the time that I was finishing work. And I sent a message to my people manager via Teams so that he could see it in the morning, saying what had happened, and said it was unlikely that I was going to be awake and working at 7, 8 in the morning. I mean, my God, it was 3:25 then when I finished writing that message. Do the math, 3:25, 7 o'clock. I'm not going to be in any state to do that. And I'd already been texting my sister all the way through the evening up until 12, where I thought she's going to go to bed. I'm not going to send any text message that will wake her up, other than the last text message said, everything will be okay. And if you see a text from me after this, it's because something's gone wrong. So my sister knew there was nothing to worry about. But I also told her she might want to, in that last message, she might want to consider coming later in the morning because of the lateness that Mum's still at the hospital at midnight. So hopefully she got all of those messages. And I woke up at 11:15 in the morning. So it was very late. And my sister wasn't here, so she did get the message. She actually turned up at 12 midday. So I think she got the message not to come, and the later the better. And if she'd have got a text message from me at 9 or 10 in the morning, she'd have known I was up. So thanks to my sister for understanding all of that. Sister's great for those sort of things. And basically, it was a very messy Wednesday. I wasn't at work. I did sign in again at about 12:30 and tell them that I wouldn't be in today. No point. By the time I've got my mum settled and everything, it'll be nearly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there'd only be, half an hour before, or an hour before my sister would be going, and I'd be looking after my mum. And what work can you really do in that sort of time? And my people manager totally understanding. He was very understanding and turned around and said, we'll put it down as a special day because you went to the hospital. Just photograph the letters and send them to me. So I did that. I did a camera photograph of the discharge letters and sent them as evidence. Funny how they want evidence, but I mean, I can understand how some people might abuse the system. So I did that. And that's the week really, because the rest of the time it's been putting a cold compress on my mum's leg, elevating her legs. Things looked like they were improving until this morning, where my mum didn't even want her legs being touched. So yeah, yesterday was so much different getting her mum out of her bed, should I say. Not great, but better. And today it was back to how it was like Tuesday. She was crying, don't hurt me, don't hurt me. It's distressing. And if people want to thumb down this blog based on all of this, go ahead and do so. You haven't got a heart. But as far as I'm concerned, everybody's been wonderful. I haven't been talking about this much to anybody because I haven't really had much conversation with people for a long time. And I've been trying to get my own personal battle with my own health because I had a diagnosis about a week and a half ago now in regards to my own health, which is not good. You may notice that over the last weeks, my face has become less flabby. I've lost over 1.5 stone in weight in 6 weeks, which is not healthy. But yeah, less about me. This is all about my mum. I'll handle those particular issues myself. But yeah, not good. And then that's it really. I don't really want to talk about the rest. Monday was unremarkable. Thursday was back at work, and Friday, Saturday prepping the blog. Sunday here. Really, there isn't too much to say other than a big thank you to Ian Hill, the Ramblings on Wednesday. I'd been up later that morning, so I had a little bit of energy Wednesday, but we kept it short. Normal sort of like bedtime range for our talk on film. If you don't know about Ian Hill, the Ramblings, please go look at the description in my blog, and you will know that every Wednesday I do a live with him talking about films, TV, music, just about everything. It's an Ask Us Everything thing. And we have a steady crowd that come in, and it takes my mind away from stuff, and I don't think I could carry on like I'm doing without that help and support that Ian gives me. If that was taken away from me, I'd hate to think what it'd be like when you lose so much of contact with people in Discord, say, like Mainmeisters. I'm hardly there. I'm hardly in my own. I'm not getting phone calls, very few chats, in private chats coming through to me in Discord or any type of thing. A highlight was on Friday where I phoned my friend Denny, and he called, and we had a chat for as long as we could, which was half an hour. It's about as long as I can do before I have to go and check my mum and so forth. And I was listening to his woes and my woes, and we just said, we've got to do this again next week, and we're trying to book that and make sure that happens. And that's it, really. No more to say. So I'm going to do the shout-outs now, and I just want to say something, that YouTube is being an arse. Really is at the moment. I opened up my comment section, and there wasn't a comment from Denny, but it was there 2 days ago. And there was a comment from Steve early morning, but I had to close my browser down and reopen it. And when I reopened it, Steve's Gaming's comment had gone. And I knew it was there because I'd hearted all of the stuff. But I did notice that some of them hadn't put placeholder, which seems to keep things if you leave it 24 hours and then write underneath it what you want to do. And when I was expanding all of the texts for the comments, I noted the questions down. So I knew what Steve's question was. But it's not there now, his actual notes to me. So Steve's comments gone, Denny's comments gone, the rest are still there. Apologies. I therefore can only answer the question for Steve, and I'll do that during the comments section. But here are the shout-outs. So, in no particular order, we've got Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Steve's Gaming Part 2, Wee Bob Art, Carl Todd, Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder, Martroid, Robert's Retro Gaming, Rocket Bunny, Denny, and Muckman-Movies. And like I say, 2 of those comments gone. And YouTube, I don't know what you're doing. These people are in my safe area. They're listed as being actually part moderators. That's how high up they are as friends. And you're removing stuff, and I've no idea why. Please stop doing that. I've checked all my filters. I've checked publish and held. All of that, not there. God knows what it is that you don't like about them or the text that they put in there. I haven't read them because I read them out on a Sunday. So I can only say, please don't do it, YouTube. But anyway, hopefully it calms down a little bit. So let's get to the first comment. We're doing pretty well at the moment. And the first one at the top is Ian Hill, The Ramblings, my friend Ian Hill. Absolutely great bloke. And oh my God, he's got quite a bit written. Sorry, just my sparkling water because my throat was getting a bit dry. You'll notice no Diet Cokes actually for quite some weeks now. But anyway, he's put, "Hi Del Boy, hope you and your mother are okay. I know your mum did have to go to the hospital. I hope now that she's back home she's comfortable and not experiencing as much pain." Well, you've heard the reply to that one, Ian, I'm afraid. "I know from my own experiences how draining to the mind and body pain can be. Hope you are getting more quality sleep now too." Actually, that's not too bad. That Wednesday, I slept, if you think about it, 3:30 to 11:15, not bad. When I look at my results, it is saying I'm sleeping longer, but it's saying I'm restless. So it says, poor restless sleep, you may feel more fatigue, but at least it doesn't turn around and say your body battery is incredibly low and that you will suffer, with tiredness all during the day, which is true. But months back, I was getting 3 or 4 hours. Now it's more 5 to 7, which is much better, isn't it? You carry on. "Enjoyed as always our live stream on Wednesday. For me, it does give me some energy back because it takes me away from my everyday life." Exactly what I can't say better than that's exactly what it does for me. "I love doing it. It gives me a lot of enjoyment and also seeing you getting some escape from your duties. Any moments you get, if you can, take them. Play a game, watch TV or a film, go into the garage and pick up a steelbook." He's done that as a joke, by the way. "Open it up and watch it. Or play a soundtrack album which you enjoy. As usual, watched more films this week. I will talk about 3 of them. The first was Flame and Citron, 2008, a Danish film starring Mads Mikkelsen. This was set in the Second World War in Denmark under Nazi occupation. It concerned a group of network resistance fighters. They were involved in Nazi assassinations and also finding collaborators. I love the way it looked at the nature of the killings and the justification for them. Also amongst them was a double agent, which was added to the drama. The second film was Pathfinder, 2007, starring Carl Urban. This was an American this was set in America about 400 years before Columbus. We saw the Vikings attacking and trying to exterminate the native Indian tribes. A young boy left behind by the Vikings was brought up in the tribe. We saw him become a warrior and how he wanted to protect them. It was heartbreaking at times, very moving. Also his relationship with a woman of the tribe who acted like a warrior when needed. The film was graphic and on release cuts were made, but this was the restored version. And finally, I'll talk about a film you sent me as a download, Weapons 2025. In my mind, one of the best films of the year so far. At 2 a.m. one day, all the children of the community go outside and they disappear. Only one boy remains. The rest cannot be found. We set these events through the eyes of 4 characters in the film. I was mesmerised by the film. It definitely lives up to all the praise and positive reviews it's received. It will be in my favourite films of the year list. It's exciting knowing that they will be more than one as mentioned yet. Brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. And just to say, both Ian and I have pre-ordered Weapons physical release. We haven't been able to go to the cinema the last couple of times, so I've gone to other mediums to get Weapons, and we're both looking forward to seeing that in a physical media form and to watch it again. So he continues. So my question this week is, what are your thoughts about the announcement this week that in February the Artemis space program begins with the aim of landing man and women on the moon? All the best wishes to you and have a reet grand time. Well, yeah, the Artemis. We've been talking about space actually the last couple of weeks. It's probably put a big smile on Steve's face where I get things. Steve's gaming, my friend, face. Me probably getting bits wrong and all of that sort of stuff. But what do I feel about it? Well, anything that forwards the space program I'm happy with. You know, I want us to progress. I feel it's important. I do realise that their proposal for how to do this is expensive and complex. And you'll have to listen to the other blogs on it, really. But, I mean, where it took us, you know, days, you know, to get to the moon and days back, and we did it all with one rocket and some reusable tech. They're going the whole reusable route with this. So, yes, of course, it's got refueling with fuel pods and refueling of fuel pods actually at Mars, and rockets that are going to land on the moon, not a LEM unit or anything like that. And it's all in regards to leaving nothing behind. And it's what took us a week in the 60s is a process that's 2 to 3 times longer than that. And it's all to do with orbits and fuel economy, and what we need to do up there and how many we're taking. So, yeah, there's delays aplenty. It's got, though, international collaboration, which is a good thing. So, it'll be done in my lifetime. Brilliant. And all I can be is excited about what the results of it will be, and the build-up and excitement to going. The rest, you know, longer, you know, going to Mars, going to other planets. I'm only interested really in my lifetime of what the probes say. Maybe I'll be around when we get better sort of like robot type equipment to go up there and look and give us results. I'm very interested in probes that go around the sun, believe it or not, at the moment, rather than the legacy of the Voyager project, which was to go to the outer bounds of our solar system. So, yeah, only good things, do I think, Ian. But, yeah, expensive. There is a limited budget. We're not in the 60s anymore, and a race against Europe and Russia or whatever it is. There's less of that. So the commitment now is just pure science. And from that point of view, budgets. So there we go. What can I say? I'm going to stop a moment now and just say salute to you, my friend, and just talk about Steve's gaming and his note that was taken away. I do apologise, Steve. There's nothing that I can do about it. I saw the text message there. I did heart it. I did notice it didn't say placeholder. You actually did, I think, put the text there without giving it 24 hours to see if the placeholder removed. And I can only imagine that YouTube saw a word in there or not. But I did see your question. And your question was an interesting one. Not that I'm going to have a very interesting answer, I'm afraid. And you asked if there was a game, I think this is what it said, if there was a game that I could find to do 100-episode YouTube series on, what game would it be? And yeah, if I could find that game, and if I could find the people that would want me to play that game and do that, I would. And I look at my games and I've got 2,000 of them and I can't find one. I really can't. You'll recognise that you did a 70-episode series on a game that I played with you. And I also did quite a lengthy one on Astrometica until it became to the point where it was rinse and repeat. And that one, I think easily I could have done 100 episodes on when I was playing it myself. But that game's been done to death. So what else could you do? So what I've been doing this week is I've looked on YouTube for up and coming genre that people are excited about. And believe it or not, and this makes me very happy, Steve, is that the RTS is coming back. The real-time strategy. And I love real-time strategy. I don't know how a series would pan out with that, but there's one called, I think it's called Flow Dust or something. It's definitely one that's got my attention. It's supposed to be out before the end of 2025. And that one looks very interesting. There are a lot of other RTSs, and I've actually bought one just yesterday called, I think it's called Scrooge. The Scourge, or Scourge, I think it's called. It looks like World of Warcraft 4. You know, the old World of Warcraft RTS before it turned into that role-playing game. Orcs and humans, build, battle. But they've added at night elements of zombie orcs that you've killed coming back to life and attacking you, as well as the attack from the players that are playing. And that means it's got a day and night cycle. So that's absolutely great as well, isn't it? And there's many ways that you can play it, and there's a mode where you can actually just play it where the AI takes control of all the base building and you just control the hero. And you level up your hero by going into dungeons and fighting a big boss creature to get items that will help you in battle when you go out of the dungeon, and then help with the AI, or orcs or humans, whichever side you're on, to fight. It fills me with wonder, that particular aspect, because I haven't seen that in RTSs much before. I've seen the hero system before, seen AI take control, but going into a dungeon and all of that, and getting things like capes or rings or whatever it is, and going into battle, the day and night cycle is rarely used in RTS. It's used a bit now, but it wasn't back in the day. It capitalizes on a longer stretch, but I tell you what, I loaded it up, quickly got to the basics of it, died in 14 minutes. So yeah, I would be shit, and that would really probably cheer me up with trying to probably stream that. But my friend, I've been meaning to stream your game, and I was going to do it this weekend. Friday was a bust, Saturday was a bust, Sunday might not be. If I get my mum to bed early, I might do that. I've managed to get one video out this week, which is a Del Boy gaming short, and it's a nostalgia one, not a favourite. So it might be niche to watch it, really, because it won't be of any game that you're going to have fun or nostalgic appeal about. And because neither do I, it's actually a pure nostalgic because of how old I was when I saw it and where it was and how long it was there. That's the nostalgia aspect of it. And of course, it spurred on to a game that I played extensively on the Commodore 64. So yes, there were many reasons for doing that particular game, and I couldn't ignore it. And it was a different type of game short to the others where I have actually played it, loved them, and got nowhere in them, but loved them for playing it myself. Don't get me wrong, I never include anything that I haven't played in the arc, on before. It's just one that I never put an immense amount of coins in or played for any length of time. It was purely nostalgia. And with that, Steve, I'm so sorry. I know very little about what you put, other than my big smile and happiness that your life has turned around so drastically this month. If you think about it, just think of the good things, my friend. You've been on a Nice and Nasty with Mainmeister. You've fulfilled a bucket list of writing 2 games and people appreciating them and coming out and going on them. You've got your channel back up and you're doing stuff live that you've never done before. You've got people in Discord all around you talking to you every day about just good things. And you've got the biggest hurdle out the way where you're going to live. And all I can say is big smiles. If you look at my life, it's a total reverse of that. So I hope you appreciate that it's sometimes very difficult to smile or be happy to hear good news, because that always used to bolster me. I used to be so happy hearing stories, but now I'm dwelling in the doldrums. I'm sinking, but I'm trying to remain buoyant. And I hope that's shown in my blogs. I hope I haven't looked like a miserable ass. But you will notice that, yeah, the more frowns, less fat around here. I noticed that. And, yeah, it's not good. But I hope you continue to be my friend. I hope you continue to be around. Be nice, to have the odd occasion that we have a chat. But, so happy for you, matey, and please go to Steve's channel. He's got 2, believe it or not, and it's so good. But I'm omitting from the bit that I always do to your channel, Steve, and that is to give you the finger and say, "Well, I hate you, you little shit. You're just too good," because that salutes part and parcel of this blog now. Be sad to see it go, but as you know, it's our little in-joke. And long may you smile and be happy. I hope that laptop's doing you well, and everything that praise that everybody gives you. Everybody needs some praise. My God, I get very little, but what I do get is so appreciated. And you deserve it, my friend. So salute, thank you very much. So we'll move past Steve and we'll get back to the comments that are actually here for me to read. And we've got Wee Bob Art next. So what's my friend Wee Bob? By the way, he's got a channel and he's a fantastic artist. My God. And his insights into films are so much better than mine for new films, because I'm so behind with new films. I'm so set in the doldrums of the past, because I'm getting very little time to watch things. But he also does his sort of like community questions and memoirs on films, although I haven't seen that for a while, Wee Bob, but I know that you've been busy. But let's see what you've put. You've put, enjoyed watching along, Del. The key thing does make sense as you explained it, and each person has different ways of living. Thanks for answering my question. I played a game called Firewatch. It is a short 3-hour-ish game and totally different from what I was expecting. Very story rich, very compelling voice acting. It is quite basic graphic-wise, but I enjoyed the story, and it is worth a go if you pick it up on a sale. One thing, and this leads me into my question, was that it made me feel sick. Every time I stopped playing, I had nausea, even though my refresh rate is high. After a bit of Googling, it turns out I'm not the only person who had this issue, and you can help reduce the effect by changing the field of view. Quite rightly, yes, you can. Weirdly, I haven't had any issues in VR, but did experience this with my PSVR on occasion. Yes, the PSVR's got a much lower quality of refresh rate and image, and it didn't really have many options either to be what they call motion sick friendly, where your MetaQuest now has usually 3 options, a very, very low setting, a medium setting, and a high setting, where that field of view, and it's to do with horizon and what you're looking at and all of this sort of stuff, this field of view, and pixel depth and so forth. affects your eyes now and your brain, more your brain, to be quite honest. It's almost like, and a lot of people might appreciate this if they've been over on a ride called the Back to the Future ride. The Back to the Future ride in Florida and California, which is where I experienced it both, lifts your DeLorean car into a dome-shaped cinema where it was projected all around you, and therefore when the car lifted onto what they call hydraulic presses, which moved you up and down and laterally as well, you felt motion. So you were tilting, the car was tilting, because it's a flying DeLorean, and you were going down the stomach of a through the mouth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex and all sorts of things, trying to hit Biff at 88 miles an hour and get the car back to the starting zone where it came from and put Biff in prison. That was the story. You got motion sickness in the same sort of way a roller coaster would do. Same sort of thing with VR. So you can actually turn that sort of off, or you can actually put it semi-on, so that if you were sitting down and playing a game, you feel comfortable. But you can also take all of those safeguards away and you are totally head tracking mode. And in head tracking mode, you therefore can get a sense of vertigo type feelings and nausea. Now, that's what I know about that, and I know nothing about Firewatch, and I'm definitely going to look out for that later on this week. But your question is the question I have is whether you have ever had an adverse effect due to a game or had a nightmare after playing a game. All the best to you and your family. And I can't think of a single moment where a film or a game has given me a nightmare in my adulthood. And in my childhood, really, I didn't have any games because that was the 70s. And therefore, the most complex thing I had was Grandstand Pong or Binatone Pong or the Atari VCS system. Don't think any of those are going to give me nightmares. More nightmares I had was reading books, to be quite honest, ghost stories, sitting up with my mum watching a Hammer horror film or something when I shouldn't be. But I never really had nightmares. So I've never really been scared watching a film. I've been, not traumatized is the wrong word, sickened by certain films that I've seen. Films that are exploitive. You know, some of them consider them video nasties. There was a time where I was watching a video nasty with some past friends of mine, where we watched a zombie sort of like a apocalypse type film where in the actual film they killed a real turtle and you saw it being cut up and all of that, and that's because of the tribe was cannibals and they needed to show that this was every day, but they actually did it real, and that sickened me. So I had a straight face all the way through it, and I mentioned at the end that I thought that it was verbose to the point of not needed. And, you know, to be quite honest, I try not to think of that film. It's where I think film oversteps the mark. And I'm all for free speech and all of that sort of stuff, and going beyond the realms. But that was a step too far. That was a step too far. Seeing anything in distress, no. Distress in real, I mean, not acting. My God, it'd be a very bland and vanilla environment if actors couldn't act distressed. So, the game in question. Well, I haven't got one particular game, but it is all in VR. It is the early days of VR as well. It was my MetaQuest 2, I think, and my own PSVR, which I've still got. My own PSVR is down here, if I can get it, show it there. I've still got it. Compared to my newer Oculus 3. which is so much better, by the way. I always have the refresh rate turned up beyond 90. It can go up to 120 or more. But race games. Oh, God, race games. Let's talk about them. Yeah. I put this one race game on that was like Wipeout. It wasn't Wipeout, but it was like Wipeout. And if you can imagine Wipeout, it glides. And it glides like this. And you can actually glide along the sides of walls. And you can imagine what that's like in VR. Because you're like, oh my God, and like this. And yeah. I had the stupidness of playing it with its default setting, which was all things off, because that's how they wanted you to experience the VR in the early days. And I felt sick, and it's like I got to the end of the first track, and I went wow, and I had to take my headset off, and that's when sort of like the nausea was there. I think if I'd have just stayed on the title screen before going for another race, I'd have been so much better, because I'd have got my perception back. But it really was like a roller coaster, and I do not like roller coasters. I've been on quite a few in the States. None, hardly. No, I think I've been on one in Britain. Yeah, it was the Corkscrew at Alton Towers. That's right. That made me nauseous. It was like that. If you've ever been on the Corkscrew at Alton Towers, and it's probably the tamest roller coaster probably known to man now. In fact, I don't think it's there anymore. In fact, it's not. I know it's not. But if any of the people who have been to Alton Towers in the 80s and 90s remember the Corkscrew, that's the sort of feeling I got playing that game. So yeah, that answers that question. I can't elaborate any more on it, other than haven't felt like that with my Oculus 3. I've got plenty of race games on there. I always set it to medium. I never set it to high, and I never set it to low. It's a medium, and that's how I test it, and that's how I generally play it. It's very rare I turn something off to max with a race game, because of that feeling. I think I'll feel the same. But with other games, zombie shooters, all of that sort of stuff, I turn it to whack, to top. Never have a problem. I'm usually standing up though, and I'm usually firing at something below or above or whatever, and that's the same as looking at a room. But race games, you got a feeling of moving with while sitting stationary, and that's when I get that feeling. But like I say, I need to put my VR headset on again. Actually, it's been a while. Even just to claim the free games that I get, because I haven't done that this month, and it's now the 28th, so I really ought to get crack-a-lacking and doing that. Crack-a-lacking again, I keep using that word. Anyway, hope that's good for you, wee Bob Art, because I'm going to move on now. And salute, my friend, and thank you for being around and your comment. Really, really appreciated. I still watch your channel. I keep looking for an alert. Keep doing what you're doing. So we'll move on, and we get to Carl Todd. My God, he's written War and Peace. So I might have a break after this, because I haven't had one yet, and we're past the hour mark. But he's put, "Hi Del, I'm really sorry I didn't get to add some questions last week. I was really busy week at work, and then my wife made plans over the weekend, so I was totally waylaid. I thought I had better let you know that I'm okay." Yeah, thank you. That's all I want to know. It doesn't really matter about the comment. My God, we all have lives. Don't worry about it. Regarding views on your channel, for about the last month, I'm not seeing any notifications of your videos, and they are not even appearing in the recommended list. I have to manually search for you. Yeah, this is what sort of like was mentioned to me by Mark of 20th Century Gaming. It is weird. It's a shame. Small channels like mine don't grow. I'd always do the blog anyway. I've always said this. The other content I do is me wanting my channel to grow. The gaming shorts, the film shorts, all of that sort of stuff. The blog always be here. The only difference is if I do decide to stop, the blog would be done. It'd be recorded, but it would be historic for my family to look at when I'm gone. It won't be actually out there for you guys to watch. That's the only difference. If I ever gave this up. So I'd still be recording, I'd still be sitting in front of the camera because I feel it's a good way to vent. It's also a video diary, so it stops me having to write things down in a diary. So it's very lazy of me, really, if you think about it. But anyway, you've put some questions. It's got, I'm still one of the few people that buy physical music CDs and the occasional record. One thing that has been happening for the last year or so has been additional versions that are announced in the week of the release. I find this practice really annoying. For example, I order the deluxe release when it's announced, and this may be the standard album with additional demos or live concert recordings. I order the deluxe version because I'm a fan of the band, and this is a limited release that will sell out. When the week of the release arrives, a digital exclusive version is announced for that week, which includes exclusive songs, instrumentals, etc. I understand that they are trying to release additional formats to get more sales that can be registered in the charts. But why not just announce everything up front? Why not have a deluxe package that includes the CD and the exclusive digital download? Do you know what? I'm totally with you on that. I do know, though, that the Elton John album, when it came out, the one just recently, actually mentioned what all the releases would be. So you had a choice. But I do recognise that that is not the norm. The norm is what you've just been talking about. And I think it's disgusting because they do that with films as well. When Megan came out, the film, Megan, it came out on Blu-ray, right, in this country and quite a few other countries. And within 6 months, they released the 4K of it. Exact same film, just a 4K release. Slightly better options for deluxe packaging, like a steelbook and that. But you're buying the film twice. Because you didn't know there was going to be a 4K release. You bought the Blu-ray thinking, oh, well, it's going to be the only version that's around. And then they released the 4K of it. It was filmed in 4K. We should sort of like realise, yeah, that's going to happen, and hold off on the Blu-ray. But then we also fear that if the Blu-ray doesn't sell, there'll be no other version, and all the scalpers will then pick up the Blu-ray, and it'll be out of print, and there'll be nothing else coming out. It's an almost fear of missing out, that foom that I talked about before. But in music, why? Why in music? Other than greed. That's it, greed. And it's distressing, it's horrible. I hate that policy, matey, and I'm with you totally all the way. Another thing that really annoys me is the great hits or best of releases that includes new songs. I know they do it on purpose so that fans who already have all the songs will buy it to get the new songs. But how can these songs be classed as the greatest best? Yeah, I get that. Although that practice has been around actually in the 80s. I remember buying an album of Elton John's actually. What was it called? It might have been called Two Rooms. And it had all of these different artists singing his songs. But at the end, it had a brand new track by him. No, it was called Duets. That's it, Duets. So all these duets that you'd bought as singles before were there on this album. And right at the end, he came out with a new song called Duets for One, which is a new song with just him singing. Now, that is therefore nothing new to what you're experiencing, and that was around in the 90s. But I dare say it was a practice also before. But what I can only talk about Elton John here because I buy physical media as Elton John, and the rest I tend not to, other than soundtracks. And soundtracks are a totally different beast. I'll talk about that in a bit. But he's released his old back catalogue digitally enhanced, where you could buy it on CD or digital. But at the end, it also has a second bonus CD of unreleased tracks. So not only are you buying the album again because it's in a new digital encoding, but there's also a second bonus disc or extra tracks on the same disc that is unreleased, which means you're buying it twice, aren't you? I mean, at the end of the day, it's greed. But I do know this about Elton John. He hasn't changed this since the album, what was it? Just trying to, was it the album The One? It could be. Or Sleeping with the Past. Could be Sleeping with the Past. This is where he set up the AIDS Foundation. When the AIDS Foundation was set up by him, he vowed that a certain percentage of his album sales would all go to the AIDS Foundation and he wouldn't get anything. Now, I think it started off with it being all sales, but I think he went bankrupt or something in the mid-90s, so that changed. To, I think it's now 80%. So I think 80% of any album you buy of Elton John's goes to the AIDS Foundation. He gets 20%. And then, of course, you've got to take away, though, the duplication process and marketing and all that sort of stuff. So it may still be a small amount. And, of course, his record sales are well below when he was in the 70s and 80s. But whichever way you look at it, he gets revenue now from owning his own records. And every time they're played, he gets a royalty. That's how he gets his money. That's what he keeps. The rest, anything he produces new, AIDS Foundation. See what I mean? So, bit of a different beast with that. Have I bought those digital albums, if you wanted to know? The first 10 I've bought. So his Empty Sky album, I think all the way up to The Fox, maybe a bit beyond that. I've bought the digital deluxe with the bonus. Haven't bought much of after that. So just to answer that, that's just to say really about that. But yeah, how can you have a greatest hits and have a new song where it can't be therefore a greatest hit? Yeah, you're quite right. It's bad marketing, isn't it? I mean, how can you sell that? Other than, thanks for buying this again, like the Queen album for the 8th time. Here's a track that we haven't been out before. Great. That was worth me putting my $15.99 down for, wouldn't it? So I get it. So you carry on. What things about the music industry annoy you? Oh my God, where do I start? Well, I'm a fuddy-duddy. I will say this. There is little courage or encouragement to promote instrumental or soundtracks. I mean, when was the last time you heard on the news or you saw an advert or heard on the radio a musician or a presenter or disc jockey promote a soundtrack? It's just unheard of. It's not known. And then there's all this exposure, like you said, in regards to digital. And there's so much as well for vinyl. I mean, and thank God for that. I'm happy for that. Vinyl. I mean, it's a great medium. Sounds great. You got that old sort of like feeling of having something in your hands, you know, the big record and all of that sort of stuff. Where's the adverts for the CD? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not that I've seen. Terrible. Then there's the compression argument. You buy something digitally, they say it's lossless, etc., etc. Generally, you find out you've been ripped off years later. They look at it, they expand the sound of it, and you find out, yeah, they compressed it. And Therefore, I find it awful because the only people then that are laughing at that are the vinyl and the CD people, to an extent. Don't get me wrong, it's still an analog or a digital recording. Vinyl's been DDD for years. It was like that even in the 70s. Everybody was looking for the little label that said ADD or DDD or whatever, and digital tape was used for the process. But you get a more expressive sound, I feel, when I'm playing a CD through my amp. SACD. If I Bluetooth or Wi-Fi the sound to that amp, it's compressed. If I put a memory stick in, slightly better, you can hear top end, I believe, a little bit more, I find. But I did do a test, but it was 5 years ago. It must be 5 years or more now. I bought a CD, and I bought one track off the CD digitally, lossless. Put the memory stick in my amp, put the CD in, played the CD, same levels, played the FLAC, because it was a FLAC file, and there was a difference. And the CD won. I can tell you that now. And you could say, yeah, that's your equipment, it's your settings, you haven't set it right, all this sort of stuff. Bollocks to all that. It's what my ears can hear as well. I mean, if you want to bring that argument in, I'm an old duffer. I'm not deaf, but my hearing is not like it was when I was 20. But I've always looked at it like this. Go buy the experience that makes you smile and happy. Secondly, don't worry about things where your ears can't pick it up anyway because you're of a certain age. I mean, what's the point in having the most deluxe, highest pitched sound if your ears can't pick that up? Get your ears tested. Sometimes you'll find that if you buy earbuds and you go to your phone, they'll do an ear test for you. There's an actual program in my Samsung phone when I put it in that plays a tone and tells me, can I hear it? So it alters my earbuds to my own ears. That's in the Galaxy Buds and the Android phones, believe it or not, ladies and gents. So if you've got a Google Pixel or a Samsung or whatever, and you've got those earbuds, just go to the settings. You'll see that there is an ear test program, or should I say, I've found that it's on my phones, but mine have all been Samsungs. Maybe it's something to do with that. So, I don't think I've missed anything here. No. You've then got a second question. Sorry, I just noticed it because I had to hit the read more. It was TGS, Tokyo Game Show, this weekend. I know that you still play some modern games, so I wonder if you have had any interest in these shows that are making announcements about new releases. If so, are there any forthcoming games that you are interested in? All the best for you and your mum. By the way, he's put, please don't take this as any criticism, but down the rabbit hole is Kevin. Maybe I'm missing some insider joke when you say Keith. No, it's a slip of the tongue. Total slip of the tongue. I'm forever got K's on my mind. Keiths, Kevins, whatever. I go into chat rooms and I'm forever going, oh, that bloke, his name's what? Is it Steve? Is it Robin? And I'm therefore filling in their screen name. And then they'll turn around and say, you know who I am. What are you putting my screen name for? And I have to go, yeah, Richard, or something. I have to think on my feet. I'm forever doing it. And I suppose I know more Keiths than Kevins. You know what I mean? I keep meaning to go down the rabbit hole, Kevin the Gerbil, down the rabbit hole, Kevin the Gerbil, down the rabbit hole, Kevin the Gerbil, you know, like this. Doesn't make a blind bit of difference if you're tired. I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't seem to be, my eyes glazing over and all of this sort of stuff. But it might happen towards the end of this blog. Depends on how it goes. But I've been going now for an hour and 19 without one pause, which will happen in a moment because I want to check on my mum. But there you go. But you asked about the new games thing, and to be quite honest, there was a question from Steve last week where he said he looked at the latest games that are coming out and he didn't see one that interested him. And I happened to mention, maybe there's one RTS there that was European Jubilaris or 6 or something, and there was Grand Theft Auto 6, which we'll talk about a little bit later on because it's in one of the videos that I watched this week where they talked about that. But other than that, I've actually been playing more indie titles than AAA titles, and I have to say I'm very disillusioned on the Switch at the moment. There's very little on the horizon that I really want. I think Kirby is the next big one if it's not already out. I think, or there's a Metroid. I might be excited about that. So there's a couple on the Switch. PS5, nah. Haven't been excited about a game on the PS5 since Astrobot. Astrobot, proper game. Maybe that excitement will grow again when the new Spider-Man game or Wolverine game is actually launched. That's when I might go, ooh, time to turn that PS5 back on. And you can see I have, because you'll see the controllers move. It's been moving actually quite regularly. But it's weird actually. I mean, this week I turned it on because I wanted to get the month's gaming done. Kevin from Down the Rabbit Hole was talking about Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is in the list of games for me to have on my PlayStation subscription, and every time I click on it, it says something went wrong. And so then I turn the machine on because I tried to do that on a browser. Turn the machine on, it's there, click on it, something went wrong. So there's something about that game, and apparently every time I search for it to see if other people are having the problem, it just says if you're in weird or wrong different territories such as Tokyo. I'm not in Tokyo, I'm in the UK. As far as I know, that is not a restricted game for the UK. Stardew Valley, my God. Am I bothered about it? Yeah, because I can't have it. But am I really, seriously? Nah, because I can have it on the PC, where it's probably more fun to play anyway. But it's annoying. Where's my free game then if I can't have that? Because they usually swap it for something else. Maybe they run out of licenses. Maybe it was just the day I tried it on. Who knows? Something else I've got to try. But to answer your question, really, I don't know what's coming out. I do go to those things. I you know, there's a channel called Worth a Buy, and I don't watch him a lot, but I do sometimes have him come up in my alerts, and it says what I thought of this computer channel. You know, this new game releases stuff. I'm actually more interested in new homebrew releases than I am new AAA title releases. So yeah, I've been to things like the Blizzard events, the EA events. Not so much the Tokyo Game Show, although I did actually watch a little bit of that. It's all down to time, really, and how interested I am. And it's weird, but the buzzword on YouTube at the moment is they're looking at the PlayStation 6 and the next Xbox, where nothing's been announced, and yet everybody's talking about what it could possibly look like, what hardware will be in it. They've got a 7-year plan. They're not going to announce for ages. This speculation, way too early. Don't even think of. Live in the now, guys. Live in the now. These bloody channels. That's a bit of an annoying thing for me that I could talk about. I've got great friends like Mainmeister and all of that live in the now, right? Oh, is that on the Mister now? Oh, is that on the? Can I do that in emulation now? Oh, can I look back at that now? Oh, is that coming out for the Switch next week? You know, all that. Not. Oh yeah, I wonder. You know, I wonder what the new Xbox is going to be called. Bollocks! When it's announced. You know, I just think it's too early. A couple of years too early. If it was within the year and that it was going to happen, fair enough. You know, the speculation about the Switch was all over the place. But I don't think anybody got excited or speculated about it until 6 months before its physical announcement. And that's because people realised, yeah, it's been 7 years since the Switch 1 or whatever, you know. And I keep saying 7, but for some companies it's 10 and all of that sort of stuff. But there is a pattern. If you look at the pattern, say let's go with PlayStation, shall we? They bring out their initial base machine. It goes for a revision. They then bring out a slimline of it. It then goes for another revision. They then go for a Pro edition of it. Then again goes for a revision. Then they announce the new console, and the new console comes out. And that usually happens 7 years. So, we've just got to the Pro edition of the PS. And it only came out this year. So, are we getting anywhere before we're getting to a PlayStation 6 yet? Yeah, it's just annoying. Thanks very much for that. And guys, I'm just going to take a break for a moment. I've been going for an hour and a half. I want to check on my mum. So I hope you don't mind that. I'm just going to wake up my mouse. Because for some reason it's gone to sleep. Or I might have to go back to Old Faithful. Yeah, I have to go back to Old Faithful. Always have a second mouse. There we go, look. And I'll be back in a moment. Honestly, it'll be like no time at all for you guys. And I'm back. Seconds, like I said. Well, less than that. But in that time, I sort of like got caught up with my sister, my mum. Had a toilet break. All of that sort of stuff. Splashed some water on my face. Just because it's a bit dry after my shave. And yeah, had an alert that there's an extra game that a friend of mine has played. And I watched 5 minutes of it. But I'll talk about that in his section. Because he got a few things incorrect. But anyway, we get to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, my friend. Sad to hear your mum is in pain and that the NHS is slow at getting the ball rolling properly. My God, listen to the bloody thing about the hospital. Also annoyed to hear about the constant problems with medication. Sending my regards to your mum as always. Thanks very much. And I always pass those on. Hopefully the blood test results didn't indicate anything that can't be sorted, though. As you say, the stress is likely your biggest problem. Hopefully you'll get your license back soon. I keep chasing. I am in the priority. I'm in the clearing system, they say now. Maybe next week is the time. Who knows? Someone has done tests on YouTube viewers and shown that YouTube are discounting viewers using ad blockers, despite that they say this is from actual tests. Jeff Geerling. Ah, there you go. Maybe my long video is the reason, I don't know. I tend to avoid autofire even when allowed in challenges, though it is becoming more attractive as I get older and my wrist aches from constant tapping. Yeah, I tried to keep the answer to that to be in the arcade. You know, in the arcades there's no autofire. I've never turned around and said that I haven't used autofire, because I have, and I do use it on occasion when an autofire is available to me on my controllers, but I think I've only got one. Let's have a look. I think this is the one that's got autofire. Yeah, there you are, look, it's on the back of this old controller. And that's the only one that's got it. So I don't have that ability anyway, unless it's a switch in the game itself. And then it's actually in it, isn't it? I've read and see a lot of... But by the way, I just do recognise that people do have medical conditions. That's why I purposely put it to arcade when I've said that. I've read and see a lot of dystopian sci-fi and thought that could never happen. But yes, recently the signs are there. We could quite easily descend into dystopia, and unless something changes soon, it's coming sooner than more people are expecting. Amen to that. Regarding Windows 10, if you're behind a NAT, e.g. IPv4 home router, then the operating system itself is protected from outside connections. Watch what software you install and keep anything that connects to the internet, especially browsers, up to date. If you want to feel safer for a few years, you can always subscribe to OPatch. Yes, I know of OPatch. For $24.95 a year, PC plus VAT. And that's, by the way, almost in line with Microsoft's $30, believe it or not, or free if you go through their program of promoting them. Yeah, promote Microsoft, get it for free. Yeah, don't like that marketing campaign either. Patch, they're good. You could even say that you can actually update manually yourself. I used to do this on our servers. I used to download from their program patches for servers, but it was there for standard operating systems as well. You put the CD actually on the server, you run those patches. It also has a program that allows you to deploy the Windows patches to all the machines over the intranet, not internet. I used to do it all the time, and I believe that program is still there. It's used for businesses, and from that point of view, it's there. But what actually Microsoft is saying is there are no more patches, there are no more protection from Defender updates, etc., etc. Now this is where I feel bad, because there's nothing wrong with them giving you Defender updates. It's being deployed to all those Windows 11 people. Defender is not going to be a program that won't run under Windows 10. It doesn't require patching too much. If you have a look, you'll see that there are always Defender updates for virus protection, but the Defender program itself rarely gets updated. So yeah, I still look at it as a bad piece of shit from Microsoft, forcibly doing it and all of that sort of stuff. I always will. You're quite right. If I hide behind, by the way, a Linux firewall. Colin knows this. I've mentioned it before. And everything filters through that, and my router is on top of that, and then my router's got its own firewall, and then it goes into my PC, which also has its protection. So it would have the 255 count that most bots or whatever, like DOF attacks, dies a death, because it's counted down. By the time it gets through the firewall and goes to the router, it's then got another one that it has to get through. It's dead. It ain't going to get through to you. So it's quite right. You just be careful with what you're downloading and all of that sort of stuff, and you're fine. It's amazing how many YouTube videos are out there from IT professionals that don't talk too much about the hardware methods that you can use to block attacks. I do find that a limitation, and that's why I'm so happy to read that out as part of your section, because that's absolutely brilliant. You carry on. You carry on. This will make sure security patches are kept up to date. That is what I'm likely to be doing for my one and only Windows 10 install on my dual booting laptop. Greed is once again going to kill a good thing. Streaming video is just too expensive and segregated these days. This is why we can't have nice things. My question: if you had the space for a few arcade cabinets, what would be your ideal setup? Oh man, let me think about that for a minute, because I know that you always come up with a better answer, and I have to come up with it on the fly. But I thought about what I'd love in my garage. If I ever had a lot of space, what I'd like one arcade machine from one genre that has a unique control system. Do you know what I mean? I'd like a Berserk machine, because that's one of my favorite games. I'd like a Robotron machine because that's a twin stick shooter. I'd like a racing game like Outrun because that's got a wheel. I'd like a Tempest machine because that's got a spinner. I'd like a missile command type game, because that's got a trackball, so it covered all the controllers. And then at the very end, I'd like a MAME machine, MAME cabinet, which has got one of these X-Arcade, you can't see this, but I've shown it plenty of times in pictures, an X-Arcade controller that has 2 joysticks, 2 sets of 6 buttons, and a trackball in the centre, and flipper controls on the left and right for video pinball, that I would use. And it must also have a USB port for a controller for 2-player, and other controllers that aren't actually the main part, which could be a spinner or a paddle. That would be my ideal setup as an arcade enthusiast, but that would be very, very costly, wouldn't it? I'd have to win the lottery, I think, for something like that. But an interesting question, and thanks very much for that. So salute, my friend, and keep bringing out that stuff. You'll see there's 2 questions for you in your Vblog this week, not 1, 2. So maybe you'll see that before you get to this. But anyway, we move on to Muckman-Movies. Salute, by the way, Colin. Hi Del Boy, Grave of the Fortress. Just so you know, when you are looking for a Blu-ray, I think you're referring to Grave of the Fireflies. Yes, see, again, a slip of the tongue. I did say it was from memory. It makes more sense, doesn't it? Fireflies, Grave of the Fireflies, which is exactly how you describe it. 2 siblings trying to survive during the final months of the Pacific War during World War II. It's an excellent film, but very sad. Had me in tears when I first watched it. And it's pretty much what I said. That came to mind, and I don't know why. It's probably because I've been thinking more about animation when I was watching your recommendation to see Flow. It came to mind probably because of the cleanness of the animation that was in it, which Flow has endlessly. I mean, the animation that's just, I mean, it's just top notch. Do you know what I mean? Took me away in the same way sort of Akira did when I saw that. So thank you very much for pointing that out to me, Muckman. Keep bringing out your stuff. Haven't seen stuff from you for a month. Hope to see your what you bought this month type thing, because we're getting to the end of September, so we must be getting close to October, and we'll see that video. Moving on, thank you very much, and salute. Martroid, hey Del, I was playing R-Type Delta on the PlayStation X last night. Really getting into it. I know it's probably been discussed before, but where do you reckon the R-Type series sits in the cure of shoot 'em ups? It might not quite reach the legendary status of Defender or Robotron, but it's definitely up there, right? Oh, absolutely. When I first saw that game in the arcades, I was blown away. Oh my God, you had this big craft, it had a big firing mechanism. I shot some of the stuff, a big shield came on, and then from the endless of space, I was going through a sort of like a computerized tunnel, enclosed. I was entrapped. I couldn't go all of the places that I wanted to because there was a ceiling and a floor. And then I was going into areas that had curved and spinning things. And then when I got to the end of that, a great big massive boss that took up the whole right side of the screen, and a tail that was attacking me. It was absolutely wonderful. I thought the graphics, my God, this looks so a mix of robots and biological stuff. I was shit at it. I couldn't wait to get a home release, and the first home release I think I played, it must have been the Amiga version, but it could have been the SNES version, where, yeah, the slowdown on the SNES version, but it was very enjoyable and the graphics looked great. I wasn't seeing a friend who had a PC Engine at the time, so I didn't see that edition till much later. But I got intrigued by it, and I looked at a friend's Commodore 64 and was wowed by that one. I missed the Spectrum and Amstrad ones because most of my friends at this particular point had moved on. They all now had 16 bits or were hanging on to their Commodore 64s, probably because of the sound. And so console versions were the only ones that I was sort of seeing. And I didn't really see a bad one. Didn't see a bad one. Later on, as we move forward, and I'd finished playing the arcade one as much as I could through standard fairs that came to my town, or going on holiday, which didn't happen. So sometimes I'd see it on a motorway service station. I might put a couple of pennies in it then. I'm sure somebody's going to turn around and say, you can't put pennies in. All right then, coins. Pound coins, probably. There then came subsequent sequels. And the only one that I have an opinion of is probably R-Type Leo. Now, I find R-Type Leo a conundrum because, yeah, it looks great, although it doesn't have that wow factor because it's not that high above the original R-Type, I find. It's just I found it easier, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, bloody rock hard. I mean, still hard, but what I'm saying is I seem to be able to, when I die, pick up the special that gave me a fighting chance to get through to at least some other ways of upgrading my craft before I saw the boss. But it's still my least favourite. And probably because so many years had passed and so many other machines had come out in a similar vein. And I was probably getting bored as well with the amount of sideways scrolling shooters that the Amiga had, because you had Blood Money and Menace and all that sort of stuff. And they were all Mr. Helly, I think, they all were amongst the same thing. And we've seen Nemesis and Gradius and Peridius. So, yeah, R-Type Leo, the conundrum of the lot. But that doesn't take away its worth in arcade history and how we talk about games that moved things on. Because I will say that there's things that came out of that game that were mimicked for at least a year or more from that game. So yeah, great question. Hope you have great time playing R-Type Delta, and I believe Steam has an R-Type, which is immensely popular but too expensive for me at the moment. I mean, I'm not prepared to pay 30 or 40 quid for a Steam R-Type remaster, reimagination type thing. If it's in a sale, I'll look at it, but I think when the sales come along, they only knock 20% off. I've never seen one that said 50% off or anything like that. Maybe it's because I missed it, I don't know, but I'm usually hot on that. So we'll see in the future. Then we get to, so salute, my friend, thank you very much. And we get to Robert's Retro Gaming, who by the way, I saw a recent video that I need to add to my list, and I'll do it when I get to it, because he's playing a Commodore 64 game and he got a few things wrong. First of all, he said that Steve's Gaming played it on the Spectrum. It was the BBC. But it's neither here nor there. It's nitpicking, so I won't go any further with that. But it's nice because he's mentioned my friend Mainmeister, and he's mentioned Steve. I've played it, matey. I don't know if you're aware of that. And I've played the exact version that you're playing, and I'm only 5 minutes in. So maybe you do mention it. I don't know, but be nice. But anyway, less of that. Dell, I find you are looking chipper today, he says. Thank you very much. Hope I am. Autofire, for those of us with arthritis in our hands, it's a saving grace. For world records and such, I agree that it shouldn't be used. Simply play a game, I think it's fine. Again, I mentioned arcade. You might have missed that word. Do you agree autofire in an arcade machine, in an arcade cabinet, a switch that says autofire? Don't know. But then again, we're all playing our arcades at home and on PC, so neither here nor there. Just as I was coming back to expand on my comment, we had a power cut in our area. Dang. Time for a nap, I guess. Well, you could have mentioned it then. Whatever you're going to say, I don't know. Hope you're able to make some progress with your sister. I hope she can see the situation is hard for both of you. Yeah, so do I. Take care and talk to you again. Talk to you soon. Well, I hope so. We haven't had a chat in ages, matey. I love your channel. Yeah, I promote it every week. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I wait in the mornings and I look and it's got Robert's Retro Gaming, Minecraft Play. I'm there, watching it. Brilliant. I'm listening along while I'm working. That sort of stuff. Fantastic. Keep well, my friend. Brilliant. And then the last one is Rocket Bunny. Yay. Haven't spoken to him in ages, but I've seen him around with Ian Hill, the Rambling stream. So he's put, hey Del, I haven't commented on your blogs for a while, but I have been watching quite regularly again recently while I'm going through another build phase in game. No Man's Sky and Fallout 4. Love No Man's Sky. Haven't played it for a long time. Need to go back to it because they've patched it again and added some content. Glad to see you're surviving despite the challenges being thrown at you and your mum. We've had serious health issues with my mum also this year, and I can relate a little with the sibling difficulties you have with your sister. We love them always, but damn, I wish they would just show a little bit more understanding to our personal situations. Exactly, that's all it is, really. I told you, everybody has a need to be loved, feel wanted, and show compassion, and actually show that you're doing all you can. I'm always forever going to my sister saying, you're doing well, Tracy, you're doing brilliantly. Try not to worry about this. I'm doing what I can. You lifted her well, all of that, but I don't get it back, so it does hurt. I really enjoy the company of you and Ian in the Wednesday live stream. I don't get much opportunity to talk about films and classic TV shows these days, especially with those with such comprehensive knowledge as both of you. It's also really good to see you clearly enjoy them so much. Comprehensive knowledge? Having a laugh. Maybe I've got some. I'm never going to big myself up. There are people out there that are like encyclopedias. I've got a little bit, and I get it wrong a lot. So, anyway, I've been meaning to say thanks for the heads up on the Tron 4K release a few blogs ago. Can't wait to watch those in 4K, because they came this week, by the way. Very expensive though, aren't they? Even just the standard one is 25 quid. Yeah, bloody prices these days. I don't understand it. 4K really should be now at 20 quid. Blu-rays 15 or less. DVDs under a tenner. You know, don't get it, but it's greed, isn't it? Ah, crap. Now I've seen the Krull Steelbook you showed off. That's another classic for the list. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. But anyway, so a question sort of, I've recently discovered a YouTube channel called Owen Davies. Oh, yeah, okay. Have you heard of him? Yes, I have. He has a huge archive of lesser-known older shows, which he has personally upscaled to 4K using AI. Hot topic, that. It's actually pretty impressive. I've already bookmarked the Total Recall 2777 series, Alien Nation series, which is brilliant, by the way, Alien Nation, and the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from the 80s, which is fantastic. All of which don't even have Blu-ray versions. No, they don't. Cheers and take care. So, have I heard of him? Yes. Am I subscribed to him? Yes, have been. I subscribed to him when his project was, must be about a year or so back now. He was doing Wing Commander. Yeah, he was upscaling Wing Commander to 4K. He's from a digital film industry, so he's got the equipment, and it was very good. And he was moving into the TV stuff, but the TV stuff I wasn't really that interested in for the ones that he had chosen. And I noticed something. Now, I will say that I did see Dungeons and Dragons. I knew it was there because it came up in my alert, because Dungeons and Dragons is one of those keywords that comes up for my alerts. And I went and looked at it, and I am impressed. I've upscaled my own DVD collection of my box set for Dungeons and Dragons, and I watch it once every year or two. And I was very impressed. AI is a hot topic, and AI is great to be used. One thing I did notice, though, now, I've noticed this, and it's good that he hasn't done this that I know of. He hasn't tried to do modern cartoons or high-end cartoons that much. What you have to understand about Dungeons and Dragons is it uses the old drawing and cell painting technique. You know, you had cells, they drew on them, they got ink and painted. So the old style shading that's used in it is like drawing a comic. Bob Art will go into this far better than I do, but if you see a branch, it's flat brown with dark brown where the sun would be coming from, and you'll tend to find it's two-tone. If you saw a golden ladder come down from somewhere, and you do in the first Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, it will be black lines for the ladder, a yellow golden glow for the ladder itself, and a slightly darker yellow to give it a glow, and then white bubbles or whatever it is to the sides of that to make it look like it's mystical. All flat colours. Whenever you look at the characters, they will be flat, pigment skin, brown skin, whatever. And the shading will just be where the light is coming from. So there's no stripling on skin tone, which you'd get later on. So when you're using AI in particular, I think AI has a problem when it comes to smoke, right? And things in distance. So it will blur the background to show an essence of movement, or smoke, which would be flat coloured, will be not smoky. It's really hard to explain, but you will notice there's a blurriness to it. And I've noticed that a little bit in Dungeons and Dragons when I was watching that first episode. And I was only watching it because normally I'd watch just the cartoon and just enjoy it. But if you're really trying to pick at the AI part of it, I will say that whenever there's a close-up and you see the party, Ranger, Venger, all, the Dungeon Master himself, Uni, all of that sort of stuff, look wonderful, right? But you tend to find that there's a tenderness to be blurry for things in the distance or whatever it is, or when there's fast running movement going along. And so it doesn't distract you at all. You only notice it because you're nitpicking, to be quite honest. So yeah, great. It's a great channel to be subscribed to. I'll mention him again, Owen Davies. I've been subscribed to him for, I think, about a year, maybe more. It's whenever the Wing Commander thing was being done. But he started off because of the video sequences in Wing Commander 3, from what I remember, with Mark Hamill. And there's that porn star that was in it. She was one of the women flight things in it. I've forgotten her name. Anyway, Wing Commander 3, 4-disc epic PC game. Was it 4 or 5? 4. Pretty sure it was 4. Had that game, loved it. So yeah, go and have a little look at that. And that's the comments. Wow. So I better get to the excuse me, watched on YouTube. I'll fly through these because I don't know if anybody's really interested in them or not. I do it as a collaboration thing, to tell you tell my nephew and niece what I was watching this week. That's one thing. Second one, when it comes to my friends, it's a glorious promotion for anybody that watches this blog. You know what I mean? And I don't care anybody that knows that. That's what I do it for. And the fact that I have watched it. So there you are. So there's two things. So watched on YouTube, there's always those 4 that I watch, which is This Week in Retro, Tech Moan, Gadget Show, and Chronologically Gaming. And what did we have in This Week in Retro? Well, you had Dungeons and Dragons and Hamsters. Yes, so I'm not going to spoil that for you, but that was quite interesting. Up is down, down is up. Well, I'll spoil a little bit for you. There's a particular type of game called Baldur's Gate that's celebrating at the moment. I can't keep a secret. I'm terrible. Up is down, down is up. The conundrum that is always, which is correct for flight simulators, and then what is correct for a first-person shooter, and how your mind is trained. Quite interesting. And did the card kill cash? Which, oh my God, I've been talking about that weeks ago, and has just been brought up again because obviously we think that the politics in this country at the moment want to get rid of cash. That's why there's no new minted coins and stuff like that that's popping about. So we get to tech mode, and he did a colour e-ink picture frame, the reflection frame. Just to say, that was quite interesting because I quite like the old Kindle with the e-paper. So e-ink is another thing. It draws the screen slightly differently, but we used to have these old ones that were like tablets that you used to put on the wall, and you used to be able to have your photos rotate round, and they were bloody awful because you had to have them plugged in all the time. And the other thing was the displays were either shit quality, or you couldn't afford them because they were too bloody expensive, and weren't worth it, to be quite honest. We used to have them as, like picture frames on mantles and stuff. I looked at them as being no better than lava lamps after a while. But e-ink interested in this, and it's very interesting. But bloody hell, the price of it, bulked at that. £270. Would you pay that for a e-ink picture frame? I'll let you decide. Go and have a little look, because I tell you what, bloody impressive display, but highly costly. Gadget show. Now, the subject this week was GTA 6 has got a 2 billion budget. Should I? And they deliberated on that. And then the other one was, should I buy the ROG A4 or hold off and buy the Steam Deck 2? It's a bit of a crazy question, really, because nobody knows the spec of the Steam Deck 2. If it's even coming out, it's a bit like that deliberation on the Xbox and the PlayStation 6 and so forth. But of course, he came back saying, if you can't wait, buy the ROG. And it was the Xbox version that he thought that you ought to buy. So that was interesting. Chronologically Gaming, always watched that guy. He's only doing one video now for 1982 instead of doing the 5 that he used to do. So it's getting an age to get through 1982, which is a shame, because 1983 is much more exciting, I feel. But he also does a backward look back, and he looked back at 1976, and he compiled together the Apple I, which he calls the birth of gaming. But there was a machine before that, by the way, the Apple I, which had gaming on it. So it's not really the birth, is it? But nevertheless, fantastic to watch. So there's other stuff outside of that. There was Everless. Blizzard North have reassembled, and they're working on a new role-playing game. So that was interesting to me because Diablo 1 and 2 are very important to me. I loved it. That music for Tristan and all that sort of stuff on the PlayStation 1 for Diablo, and then I bought it on the PC as well, and it equally looked as good and played better, I thought. And then Diablo 2 on the PC just blew my mind. Wow. And its expansion. But Blizzard North disbanded. They set up their own separate companies. Now they've not all come back, but the majority have. It's the marketing director and most of the programmers. Only the artist has not come back. And they're working on a sort of a Diablo-looking game, only it's much more bells and whistles, twisty-turny graphics that you can spin round. But it looked bloody good, and the artistry on it, if it wasn't the original Diablo artist, it was still a bloody good artist that was on it. So I really enjoyed that. So that's Everless. Just look up Everless. You'll see it's their Blizzard North reassembled. That's what it's called. Arctic Games. They did Arctic Gaming is the channel. They did a little look back on the PS3, and it was called The Most Over-Engineered Console. And oh my God, wasn't it? It was the most engineered console. And the mistakes Sony made with that PS3 launch. it brought back so many memories. But look at the good that came out of it. So this is where that documentary comes into it. And you'll probably be asking yourself, what good? Well, of course there was good. They looked at all of the negatives that were coming along and corrected them before the relaunch of the PS4, so they learnt from their mistakes. They knew that the price was wrong. The things that came out of it is it sold enough machines to destroy HD DVD because it had a Blu-ray player in it. The cell chip was used by air traffic controllers by banking them all together because it was the 33rd most powerful supercomputer imagined when they assembled all these PS3s together to make up a supercomputer. It's in a similar way that Bitcoin started to use NVIDIA graphic cards as a way of getting their stuff to work and get more revenue. The PlayStation Network came from that. It was offered free, so that became a thing for the PS4. Oh, so many things were corrected, and so therefore it was a good console, really, because so many things were fixed and so many better things happened later on. So yeah, great documentary, worth watching. I then watched Adam Martin. I watch him now and again because I like his videos on indents, the regionalisation and how ITV was segregated and a lot of other nostalgic TV stuff. But this week marks the mark of ITV being 70. So his channel was, this actual episode was called ITV is 70, the legacy of the other side. And it is a legacy. And it's just a shame that ITV are not promoting that themselves too much. They've got a ton of stuff on ITVX. If you want to look, you can see stuff from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Multiple types of programs from those. Comedies, dramas, news, everything. But how many programs have I actually seen devoted to ITV being 70? I saw a news broadcast that was an hour and a half long showing the news through the history of ITV from 1955 onwards. Sad. Otherwise, it's mentions in the ITV news and a little snippet of 2 minutes of a regional programme or something. Terrible. Moving on. Trek Culture. I watch him on occasion. He did a series a while back, and I don't remember watching it, but I probably did. But it's called The Ups and Downs of All the Star Trek Films. So from the motion picture, he talks about the film all the way through, and he upticks it if he thinks it's good. He downticks it if he thinks, oh, this was bad. And you therefore get an idea of the film because it's got 33 upticks and only 11 downticks or whatever. And you can agree with him or disagree with him. And so many times I've disagreed. Actually, I turned around and said, you do know that you're being an arse about that. But there you are. That's the reason why I like it, because I'm shouting at the screen. Double Reel ITV is the next channel. This is because he does what they call the history of, right? And it's the history of TV programs. I've watched him on and off. I've started to watch more of it this week, and it was because the Hulk and Farscape were there. So it was the history of the Hulk, the history of Farscape, how those programs came along and died, how they tried to bring them back, what actually eventually happened to them, etc., etc. Because they do live on, these shows. Some of them live on in comics. You might not be aware of that. They might live on in novels, like Farscape. It is not the end. Whenever something ends, it's usually not the end. There's something else that continues on. Maybe it's in another program or that references it or whatever. So it's great. And then the rest of it, I'm not going to even really mention of it. I'll bunch it all together. Lots and lots of channels turning around and saying whether the Tron and Tron Legacy 4K releases are worth buying or not, and what the picture quality is like and what the sound quality is like. Too many to mention. Watch those because I was interested. So we get to the film, TV and soundtrack YouTube section. And here we start off with Ian Hill, The Ramblings. You know I've mentioned him so many times during this blog, but I have to go out there and say, please go, like, subscribe, whatever. Even just look at a couple of his videos. Well worth your stopping over and looking if you're into your sci-fi or your films or your TV or reviews or music, including prog rock, David Bowie, all that sort of stuff, all covered over there. So what did he do this week? He did some shorts. He did the top 5 war films between 1971 and 77. He did a Doctor Who review of Dragonfire, X-Files review season 4 episode 22. He's doing episodic reviews of that. An SFX magazine review yesterday. That was there. And he did a live with me on Wednesday. What can you say? Look, you got Cuddly Me. Ranting away, which is my persona on his channel, is to rant. Don't know why I don't rant anywhere else. And it's always a pleasure. Please support my friend Ian Hill. Absolutely marvellous. Mondo Chanovic Movies is next, and as you know, I use him for my horror stuff. He did an out-of-print 4K and larger protectors review where he got these protectors from America so that you can protect your films. Not only does he do stuff for the horror, he also tries to help you with understanding and storing of your physical media. So well worth a watch. Mondo Chanovic Movies. Then you got Through the Lens, my friend Josh. He did the Ultimate Marvel Cinematic Universe tier list. Wow. Josh, I have to disagree with you. It's not the ultimate. I haven't done mine yet. That's a little joke for you. There you are. But always interesting to see a tier list of somewhere. This was on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so of course I was avidly watching. You either agree or you disagree. There were things in there I disagreed with. There was stuff I agreed with. So it's great. It's balanced, isn't it? Marvellous. Did You See That? Now, he's done something weird this week. I don't normally watch Did You See That do this, but he did a couple of theatre reviews. So he did a theatre review. That means going to the theatre and watching a TV programme like Inside Number 9 done on the stage. And he did that, Inside Number 9. And he also did a ghost story, which was at the theatre as well. So that was great. And then he did some more Spider-Man play. So he finished that off now. He did episode 19 and then the final. So absolutely brilliant. We moved to Jim Jam Movies, my friend from near Birmingham. He did a retro TV with ITV at 70. So he wanted to let everybody know that ITVX has got a big amount of stuff for you to watch on ITV. Absolutely fantastic. And I believe later on this week, or maybe even tonight, he went to Telford for a Comic Con type thing, where there was I think Linda Hamilton was there. I think a number of people from Alien and Terminator were there. So you might see quite a bit of footage of that. So that'd be good, wouldn't it? So that's something to look forward to. And then I watched Commode and Mayo's Take. They do sometimes a film review every Friday, generally, I think. So they did Weapons review, which obviously they enjoyed because Ian liked it. I liked it. Commode and Mayo liked it. There you are. What more can you say? Definitely worth a watch, that film, Weapons. It is a weird film, one that's difficult to describe without giving spoilers. So I won't say any more than what Ian said in his comments, because I read out all the comments verbatim. I don't sort of take them away. So that about covers that. And then we've got Game and Tech on YouTube. These are most of my friends that are on Discord. Not that I'm there much anymore, but I'm going to make a discerting effort to be more there, but it's very difficult for me. You got Down the Rabbit Hole, did 3 videos. Does this Battlestar Galactica t-shirt actually fit? Because he bought one in 2001 and he's only just took it out of the packaging. That was quite fun. StarCraft on the Nintendo 64 is not terrible, as according to Kevin. So there you are. Definitely watch that. And then Vectrex Dodge Challenge, which was brilliant. I love anything to do with the Vectrex, so it was interesting to watch that. Same sort of coverage though. Talking about the Vectrex Mini, I've talked about that myself. I can't get a Vectrex. The Vectrex Mini is a no-brainer to me. Get it. I literally only had a friend that had a Vectrex. I remember my dad bought me one, and we didn't even take it out of the box, and it was sent back to Woolworths. I think it was because I said I didn't want that. I wanted an Atari or something, or I think it was a VIC-20 it ended up being, or there was something else. I said, Dad, can I have this instead for something? And that was the stupidest mistake I could probably have made. I'd have probably have loved it. But I did know a friend who had one, and I did go round, and we did have fun with it. But I wasn't that remorsed that I asked my dad to take it back at the time. I'm not sure why, really, but just saying, I'll just end with this. I love the Vectrex. I think it's a fantastic system. I don't have buyer's remorse, but it'd be one of those ones that I'd have high up on my list to buy if I had the money, along with that X68000 that I've longed to have since I very first heard about it and saw about it. And I still have that feeling now, the X68000. So there you are. I'm not going to say much more about it other than go watch Down the Rabbit Hole, man. Bloody hell. Great. Canadian. Fantastic. Royalty, really. But then we get to real Canadian royalty. That's Robert's Retro Gaming, who cunning resemblance to our sovereign. But anyway, just joking. He's done no end of video. My God, look at this list. It takes up all of this, you know. This whole section here. Yeah, right. So, Dwarf Fortress Classic Episode 6, Minecraft Play Episode 161, C64 Play Mooncrester, SNES Play Joe and Mac, Spectrum Play, I've forgotten what it's called. Dan Terrific, that's it. 16 to 18. Atari 8-bit, Labyrinth, Roulette, Invasion, Fire Fleet, I think it's called. That was out this morning. And as I said, while I was waiting, he was doing another video. It's called, on the C64, Ghouls. And it's one that my friend asked me to play in my friend's challenge. That's where I wondered whether he had remembered that. I haven't watched it all, but if he hasn't, if I will have watched it by the end of this, so I will mention it. Don't eat all the dots. You don't need to. Just get to that house. And yes, it was the BBC that Steve played it on. So fantastic little game. And of course, yes, I told Mainmeister on Sunday what the actual tune was. So yeah, all of that sort of stuff. Or you're going to get it all in one place with Robert. So go there and watch that Ghouls. I'm sure it's going to be endless fun for me to watch that. Moving to Steve's Gaming, and like I say, all I can say to him is, but you know, you little shit, your channel's too good. But the other thing is, apologies that your text got missing, matey. I'm so glad about your uptick in things turning around for you. I hope you wish me well on getting mine. But what did you do this week? Let's see. Home soft discs 76 to 77. Games I've never played 1 and 2. BBC Shorts. Tutu Carmen's, I think it's Revenge, and The Network. Absolutely fantastic. I watched every single one of those, as I watch all of those others that you saw up there. It's a mammoth amount of stuff to watch. You can probably understand why I haven't watched much else. Salute, my friend. You're absolutely fantastic. One of my closest friends. Colin Jones, aka Ponder. Mainmeister's High School Kerfuffle. Megazone they're playing this time. So that's great. And he must be coming close to doing another blog, so I'm looking forward to that. And 20th Century Gaming, who did a C64 live of Steel Ranger twice this week. And he did a Zap issue, I think it was 6, last night. and that rounds up everything that I watched, other than, you know full well, my friend Mainmeister, he always puts out stuff. There'll be a ton of stuff this week about his visit that he's doing this weekend. I wish him well. Haven't spoken to him in a long time. Haven't been able to go and see everything that he's done either because of my mum. Things just drift away, I suppose, a little bit. Hopefully I'll be able to get back on tier and be able to be there for him in the background, urging him along to play games badly. But at the moment, so difficult for me, and I'm sure it's the same for him. I'm sure he hasn't watched every blog of mine. It's one of those things, but it doesn't fill me with any glee, you know. So there we go with that. So that's the end of the paper blog. Might as well show you what's turned up, because not everything I'm going to show you, because there's some other stuff that turned up, but I put them upstairs. Forgot that I needed to show them off. They were the Film Vault releases, believe it or not. Those are the big box Film Vault films, and they were Poltergeist and The Shining this time. So they got the numbers 9 and 10 on the side. When you turn it around, you see on the back of the box that they are individually numbered, and they've taken out the little LED crystal, the little crystal that was in there, which I find, glass crystal it is, which I find a shame, but it was damaging the internal sides of the box. But they have now put in both a digi case and a steelbook inside the big box, and you've got all the standard paraphernalia, posters, art cards, books, etc. inside the boxes. They're bloody expensive, but I've now got all 10. Absolutely fantastic, so I'm keeping with that, and we'll see if my overhead cam is working. Yeah, it is. Marvellous. Right, so things that have turned up. Most of this is cheap. Okay, this £2 on eBay, The Art of Racing in the Rain. The reason I got this was I watched it online about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and it's not something I'd normally watch, because I don't like watching things like Marley and Me and that. They're good the first time, but they're sad. You know what's going to happen. The dog's going to die or whatever in this. The Art of Racing in the Rain is about an owner that is budding to race in Formula 1. His favourite race driver is Enzo, and he wants to eventually drive for Ferrari. But he buys a dog, a little puppy. He takes that puppy everywhere, takes him to the race courses, everything like that. You see him fall in love with a girl. They get married. They have a kiddie. All of this is in the life of this dog, who really is into Formula 1, this dog. That's why I liked it so much. And it's voiced by Kevin Costner, by the way. I thought it was Edward Asner. His voice was that gruff. And basically, I won't ruin it for the end. But if you're a Formula 1 fan and you want to see a sad story and you really want to smile at the end, watch this. Brilliant. On Sunday at night, I was turning on TV and BBC One was showing a film that I hadn't seen, and it was this film called The Aftermath. Now this is a fantastic film, and I bought this off Amazon for £4. £4, right? And it's about exactly what it says, the aftermath. When World War II ended, we went over to Germany and tried to help with the rebuild. Okay, it's part of the peace plan. But there were so many Germans that were still around that did not like the British or any of Europe other than themselves, and even carried tattoos on their wrists saying 88. And if you haven't worked it out what 88 is, it's the eighth letter in the alphabet. So if you had the numbers 88 on your wrist, that was HH, and that's Heil Hitler. Now, I wouldn't want to go through life with that tattooed on it, but there you are. There were these people. So what happened is that these soldiers had to live somewhere, and of course most of the devastation means that even the Germans have got nowhere to stay. So this soldier and his wife move into an aristocracy type house that only got semi-bombed. So inside it are two Germans, that are father and daughter, and they were moving in as husband and wife, and they were allowed to live in the part that was not bombed, and the Germans were relegated to the area that was bombed but livable, and they don't get on. That's basically the crux of the story. You get to see what life was like after World War II, and it's sad. It's very depressing. The story of these two and how they lived is interesting because it talks about the plight, really, of how Germans had to interact with us. So it's a very interesting sort of like drama period piece. It's comes from the company that is so well known, Tony Scott and Ridley Scott, and they're Scott Now. So basically, visually, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. From a drama point of view, yeah, watch it a couple of times. You probably won't need to watch it again. I fell in love with it, so I bought it. Shoot me, £4. Next one is a brand new one. Well, not brand new. It's a steelbook, brand new. Night of the Living Dead 35th anniversary. I'm not sure if I showed that last week, so it came either last week or this week. I'm pretty sure it's this week. And of course, it's got the uncensored version of the film for the first time ever. Marvellous. There's the back of it if anybody wants to look at it. The Living Dead series I love. Night of the Living Dead is quite a good film. Enjoyed that. And then it won't come as any qualm to you guys. The Tron films have come out. So the Steelbook of Tron Legacy, here it is, gorgeous looking. The restoration of this one is different to Tron Classic. This one was only came out in 2010. It's 15 years old, and I think it was done on digital film. So basically, I think it was actually filmed with IMAX in mind, so it doesn't really need too much of a restoration. So that one is just purely because you got a 4K release of that. But this one is the important one to me. The original Tron, the 1982, I think it is, classic 1982. It's been 6 months being this being restored from its cellular film elements. An uplift in the soundtrack. More extras as well being put onto this. You'll see that there's more. And I'm really looking forward to opening this and watching this today. That is my intent, is to watch Tron today. And we'll go back to New Camera and say that thank you very much for watching this. I did intend to do some trailers today. A, I ran out of time. B, the first one that I put up as a test was Tron Legacy, and that got banned. Probably because of its soundtrack. Yeah, it was banned because of its soundtrack. You've seen Tron, me do a trailer for Tron. You've seen me do a trailer for the Living Dead series. And therefore, there wasn't, Shining and Poltergeist. You've seen those because I've bought them before in different formats. So there wasn't that great amount for me to do. But I will be bringing those back. Won't be long now. But I must state everything that I do in here is just a video blog. It's not to hurt or offend anybody. And if you get to the end, brilliant. Those people that, thumb it down or whatever, they won't even be hearing me saying this at the end because they don't watch it all the way through, I should think. And so I hope everybody wishes my mum well. That's my priority at the moment. My own health will come along. But I've always said that this channel was a documentary of events and how things change in your life. In the very first part of my blog, if anybody ever goes back that far, they'll see that when I was sad, I was unshaven. When I was happy, I'd shaved and was chipper. Right now, at the moment, my health's bad and I'm losing weight. A good thing. Not good in how fast I'm losing it and how quickly I'm losing it. But I'm looking at that. And with that, I'm going to say I'm so happy that all of my friends have got an uptick in their lives. and let's hope that something like that happens shortly here. And with that, salute, till next week. And hopefully I'll get some more Del Boy shorts out. I hope you look forward to those. I do look forward to doing them, but it is difficult. And with that, salute and goodbye.